Hello and welcome to the Shreenation podcast. My name is Shree and let's waste some time together. Now, I just I just whipped this up, so there is not going to be a video because the way I look if I showed up on video, I think everybody's going to get scared, but that's the beauty of modern technology. I don't really have to dress up if I have an idea to make a podcast episode. And this is not my first episode, but I think if you are a subscriber to my Shreenation YouTube channel, you probably may not have even heard of my podcast before. I used to do one a long time ago before I started my reaction videos. Now, if you're not a subscriber, I do lots of movie reactions on YouTube. A lot of before I used to do essays. So if you haven't checked those out, you can check that out. Before I used to do a lot of this, just to get out my thoughts, just to talk about current issues and movies and trending topics, pop culture related and everything. So I kind of stopped because, first of all, doing everything alone is not only quite difficult, it's hard to manage everything because it feels overwhelming. Because of Anchor or Spotify or YouTube even, it's not that hard to edit this stuff, but to juggle too many things at once is really not my forte. I'm not a kind of a multitasking kind of person, nor am I really good at marketing stuff. I'm not good at social media, Instagram, TikTok, but I'll try to do my best to post a lot of things on Instagram as much as I can, and on my second channel I would try to post these podcast episodes and book reviews and everything. I'm just I don't like to be too invasive with the things I create. By that I mean I don't want to post every day on my main channel and tire out and bore out a subscriber, nor do I want to just post low tier or content that I'm not interested in on my second channel just to keep things going. Now that goes against many of the things I've learned to kind of do these things to promote my work, but you know what, I'm not really, this is not an argument against quality. It's just about what do I want to post on my second channel is the question. Now, first I always wanted to do book reviews, but I'm someone that can't speed read a book. So for me, a book let's say something that's 300 pages takes me about a week, because I not only read for pleasure, I read to have an epiphany or an idea for my own writing works. If you don't know, I love to write, and I'm currently working on 2 manuscripts, which I'll get to in a second. And at the same time, I want to have an experience when I read something. I want to learn a lesson, and I want to remember the story. So a 300-page book might take me a week, and if it's something like a 1,000-page book, like Brothers Karamazov or something, that's gonna take me way longer. It's gonna probably might even take me 3 weeks even. And I have no shame in that. I can't speed read books. I like to read them as calmly and quietly as I can. So that's just me. So that is not that's not something I can do, post a review once a month. So in between book reviews, I've decided I will do these podcast episodes where it's going to be divided this way. And before I talk about the division, I just want to point out to my new listeners, if you don't want to listen to the first part or the third part and you're just here because of the title, which is about the trending topic that I wish to talk about, today it's going to be the Razzie nominations. If you just want to skip to that, the timestamps will be given in the description box below or in the comments. You can just skip to that if you don't want to listen to anything else. But the division of these podcast episodes will be, the first part will be about my writing journey, how far have I gone in my manuscripts, what's my process like, what kind of stories am I working on, and what kind of hurdles am I getting into, and everything from writing to storytelling to tips and tricks to publishing, everything. I just want to talk about that. The second part of these podcast episodes will be about the trending topic of the week. This time I want to talk about the Razzies. Next week is going to be anything else. Every trending topic will be related to movies, movies or TV shows or anything pop culture related. I don't talk politics. I don't talk anything else. I'm not interested in that kind of like divisive content. So it's always just going to be everything I do on my main channel. It's just going to be an extension of that here. And the third part that I would like to talk about, it would be about personal growth. I have a weight loss goal because I have been gaining a lot of weight recently ever since the pandemic. I want to do a weight loss journey here. At the same time, I'm very I love to learn. I consider myself like a lifelong learner. So I just want to document any new subjects I've learned, what I've learned, and the existing subjects, how I've like learned it. Not just about the subjects, but just about the process of learning. How I've like let's say if there's a skill that I'm not good at, how I've become efficient in it. I just want to talk about that by the end of every episode. So if this is the kind of content that might interest you, please stick around. I don't know how good I'd be at editing this stuff, so I hope I do a good job of it, especially for the first episode. And pretty soon I'm gonna add video to this as well. So with all of that out of the way, the introduction part, let's start with the first subject matter, which is about writing. Now, if you're not new on my channel, you probably may have heard me talk about my writing. You have probably heard me talk about the fact that I love writing stories and especially novels. I consider myself to be a writer, and I hope I can call myself an author someday by traditional publishing, or if all else, if traditional publishing doesn't work, then self-publishing. Whatever it is, I would hope to be an author. But most importantly, I started my writing journey around, I'd say, before even writing a novel. I started writing from a very long time ago when I was like 6 years old. But I started considering myself as a serious novel writer when I wrote a novel. I co-wrote a novel for someone else, and I realized that I do have the skills for it. It's just very choppy, so I need some training. Ever since then, around like 25 or 26, I started developing some of my own ideas, and then I had a particular plots in mind, but then I realized I need more polishing of these novels, of these manuscripts, of these ideas, basically. So I went on like a full learning spree. I read every single book I could find, screenwriting, novel writing, and to my surprise, I found screenwriting novels to be very efficient in talking about like saving time and saying as much as you can in as little time as possible. And I think like I don't know how other people work, but for me, I do like that kind of narrowed discipline, because with me, I realize that if I don't have that discipline, I tend to meander. And I've seen many other authors go off on tangents as well, where like there are some chapters that I feel like if an editor was very efficient in their own work, they would have cut those out as well. Now, that's just personal opinion. Some other people may appreciate those chapters, but lengthy explanations of certain things are good if it's going to pan out by like later chapters. If a description of a setting is important, then then I'm going to read that. But if that description has nothing to do with anything that's going to happen later on, I don't like to read so much. And I feel like older books tend to have that a lot. So I did find screenwriting books to be much more efficient in that. So I started to like plot my manuscripts as much as I can, have a good plot line, have good characters, have the beginning, middle, and end. And finally, I felt like I had a concrete story in my mind to do that. And I did, but when the pandemic hit, it really kind of threw me off of my own stories, and every thought in my mind went to like survival mode. Especially in India, there was like a whole, when the pandemic first hit, there was a ban on like meat and eggs and stuff like that. And someone like me who does the keto diet, who has this weird reaction to carbohydrates, like I don't know if it's called celiac disease or something. I have never been diagnosed for it, but every time I eat like too much bread or too much rice, I feel like the inside of my stomach is on fire. So I tend to avoid that as much as I can, and I tend to avoid table sugar and stuff. So when meat was banned, when eggs were banned, when like lots of like non-vegetarian food was banned, I went crazy for 2 months. But I got some resources from like a local farm, thank God. But the point was, my whole mind went to survival mode, and my story took a back seat. So when the story took a back seat, I just wanted to do something, and that's when the YouTube channel just came alive. When I was just like, let me just enjoy doing this first. Let me just watch some movies to get some ideas. That's how the idea for Shreenation started. Before I used to do video essays and stuff, but I wasn't like a consistent content creator back in the day. I just would like watch a TV show like Barry, for instance, or Chernobyl, have an idea and make a video. That's about it. But the videos would have like 3 months of gaps between them. You know what I mean? So I did it as a hobby. I used to like I used to work. I used to work another job at the time as well before the pandemic, the layoffs, so I didn't have the time to like make a video per week. But because of the pandemic, I had a lot of time in my hands, and the channel really took off. And because the channel started demanding more of my time, the story again, the story took a back seat, but I didn't really go back to it. The confidence started shaking when like I was when I went every time I thought about going back and writing again where I left off, the confidence started becoming more and more shaky. But I realized that like every time I'd read a book about writing, whether it's a book about description, setting, dialogue, screenwriting, anything, the influence kind of always came back. The influence came back to plot my book a lot more. If you haven't guessed it by now, you should. That I love plotting. I love plotting before I put too many words on paper. I used to like write on the go as well. I think it's called pantsing. I did that for my first novel. I would do that to an extent. I would not do it for everything. But pantsing is helpful if you don't have a concrete idea in your mind, just like a vague idea, a vague premise, one line for your story. That way pantsing could be helpful, but we're talking about like 100, 200 pages of writing. So I like to plot before I do that now. So while plotting my first manuscript, an idea for a second manuscript came to my mind because I kept reading new books. I'm going to talk about these books too. Before I used to read, I read A Story by Robert McKee, The Anatomy of Story by John Truby, and Screenplay by Sid Field. These books helped me plot my first manuscript. And when the second manuscript idea came to my mind, the first manuscript is about the power of art and how art can influence people to do good things, but the flip side is it can also be corrupted to do bad things. The second manuscript is about a heist. So this is very contained, it's very Ocean's 11 style. So I just did not want to pants this, I just didn't want to fly off the seat of my pants and just write whatever I want, I wanted to have a good plot in my mind before I started. So what I picked up was another screenwriting book again, but this one actually had a novel version to it as well. It had a version for novelists, and I thought, okay, maybe I can pick that up, but first let me pick up the original, which was about screenwriting. So this book is, of course, I think if you are a writer, you may have heard of this. If not, it's Save the Cat. Save the Cat was written by Blake Snyder. The first book was about screenwriting, of course, so I picked that up. And this, let me tell you, this book is so simplistic. It's so simplistic in its idea of constructing a story. And it's so brilliant that I think if you are a first-time writer, whether it's a novel writer, whether you are a screenwriter, whether you're a short story writer, you don't need any other book than this book. It's a short book with short sentences, and it's just about beats. The entire story is divided into beats. It talks about how to have a beat sheet for your story. And it's so simplistic that you need something this straightforward that doesn't like beat around the bush and add more complexity to things. A story can be broken down to its bare bones, and this book really shows you the skeleton of a book, skeleton of any book, any novel, any movie, any TV show that you've watched before. Granted, everything is not as simple as it seems. If you watch a movie, every movie seems different. But if you apply this like save the cat beat sheet method, you see that almost all movies, of course I'm saying almost all because I haven't seen all movies or all books, read all books, almost all movies and almost all novels follow this pattern. So I'm about like 50% into the book. And by the way, I've been doing something that may seem ridiculous, but because I am writing a novel and not a screenplay, I just didn't want to I just didn't want to take any chances. I just wanted to try it out. What I'm doing is I bought the paperback for Save the Cat, and I'm reading that. At the same time, whenever I'm going on a walk, or whenever I have some free time, or whenever I'm doing my chores or creating thumbnails for my YouTube videos, I'm listening to the Save the Cat Writes a Novel version on Audible. So I'm basically reading both books, which is about the same thing, but in different formats. So Save the Cat Writes a Novel is the novel writing version of Save the Cat, and it's written by a woman, I think, who has used the exact same method that Blake Snyder has used for his screenplays, but she has just, transformed it a little bit for novel version. But I have to say they're both very similar. But you can pick up any book. It's the same book, but for different formats. So I've been listening to Save the Cat Writes a Novel, and it has helped me so tremendously, especially for a book that's about like heists and something that feels like Baby Driver on paper. I don't really want to write something haphazard. So this book, Save the Cat, has helped me so much in plotting this story of mine, and even the first novel, which is about art. So that is very different than like your basic linear story, but still this beat sheet has been helpful in plotting that as well. Anything left to plot. And the only things that I always struggle with is the middle part of any story. The midpoint drives me crazy. The middle chapters, they're always the hardest for me. I don't know why. I always have a beginning and I always have an end. Or even if I don't have an end, I'll have a vague idea of an end, For the second novel, the heist novel, I have an ending. But the first one, the one about the art, I have a vague understanding of how I want to end that novel. I don't want to give too much, so you guys can maybe read it someday if like God helps, it gets published. But it's about forgiveness. So I do have a vague idea about forgiveness when the first novel, so but I don't have a good middle for these things. And that's something I struggle with the most, and I feel like Save the Cat is going to save my ass for constructing a good middle, midpoint, act 2, whatever you want to call it, for both these manuscripts. I have more ideas in my mind. I have an idea about like, social media and like YouTube and all this stuff. That I have a story revolving around that. I have a story revolving around the military. I have a story that's like very much like an epic story. But I don't want to dive into every single idea if I don't know how to write these first 2 books, As writers, we tend to get carried away by our own ideas, but you have to have the skill set to write something so epic, basically. If you have an idea for a fantasy sci-fi or something, it's an epic. By epic, I don't mean like, ooh, it's so epic, it's so cool. I mean like an epic, a story within a story within a story with so much world building, which is basically like, a modern epic like the Ramayana or fucking, I don't know, like Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, So you have to have the skill set to pull that off, or else it's going to sound so bad. It's going to be terrible and nobody's going to read it. So I don't want my books to fall into that cauldron of nothingness. So Save the Cat really is saving my ass in these 2 things. And I hope, and this is not an advertisement, I'm not marketing that book. I'm loving it so much that I really wanted to talk about the tools that have helped me. Before it, The Anatomy of Story by John Truby has really helped me out. But it was a really good book. Story by Robert McKee is also very good, but it's talking about the art of storytelling more than it's like giving you like a beat sheet, basically, like Save the Cat does. And it's a much longer book. So someone who is short on time, or who just wants to have like a simple like a third grade level idea about how to write a novel, Save the Cat is the book for you. And I don't mean third grade level as in like, it's so lame, it's so basic. No, I don't mean that. But I believe that if you can explain a complex subject to a third grader, like, let's say if you can explain quantum physics to a third grader, just the same way, if you can explain novel writing or screenwriting to a third grader or someone with a third grade reading level, then you know about the subject. You know what you're talking about. And I really believe that Save the Cat is a really good book. Story by Robert McKee is also a really good book. If you have the time, read that as well. Anatomy of Story as well. And Sid Field's screenplay is one of the most basic divisions of story I've ever read, which is Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. It's the magnum opus idea about dividing a story, basically. So I will actually recommend that book as well. It's a really good book, especially for screenwriters. I don't believe that you can just divide a story into 3 parts and that's that. There's so much more going on. But still, it's a good book to start out as well. But yeah, Save the Cat is still slowly becoming one of my favorite books. So that's where I leave the writing part of this podcast, so I don't go off into tangents. And up next, I want to talk about the Razzies 2023. I don't know why, before even getting into the Oscar nominations every year, I'm always excited about the Razzies. It's just such a fun sport. I guess you can call it the Schadenfreude of movies or whatever it's called. But I like both sides of the spectrum, unironically. I'm not here to like celebrate someone's demise or something like that. I'm not going to like trash a movie because it's trash, because everybody agrees it's trash. But I like to watch bad movies as well as good movies for some reason. And it's not for any other reason than just pure enjoyment, because there are some bad movies that can just be pure entertainment. Now, are the Razzie nominations pure entertainment, or should they be just ignored? We're gonna find out. Now, there have been a lot of nominations. I'm looking at the list right now, and I don't think I'm gonna talk about every single movie. I think some of them are just, I don't even know who stars in it. So I'm just gonna pick some, but I'm gonna talk about all the worst picture nominations. It's not a long list. It's just, I'd say it's 5 movies. It's just 5 movies. So I'm going to go through each of them and see if they belong in this list or not. And by the way, you might hear some dogs barking and cats arguing. I don't know what's going on. I wanted to delay this recording because of this noise, but you know what? It's been too late. It's like 10 o'clock right now and I can't push this any further. So the first picture nomination is Blonde, which is the Marilyn Monroe film. And it's Disney Pinocchio. There's another Pinocchio by Guillermo del Toro. Then it's Good Mourning. Then The King's Daughter and Morbius. I'm just gonna say right off the bat, I've watched Morbius from top to bottom. And I've also watched it with a friend, just for entertainment purposes. And I've watched the trailers to all the other movies, and I've also watched reviews and other thoughts. I've read the comments, most importantly, the very entertaining hate comments that have been put in some of these movies. So let's get into it. Let's see now. Which one should I talk about? I think I'm gonna go with Blonde, because it's the movie that I don't know why I had debated watching this movie. Like, I was almost ready to watch this movie because of how much it was trashed by critics, by fans, by everybody else. I just wanted to watch it. The only reason I stopped myself is when one of the reviewers I really respect, who is Mark Kermode, he said that this is a very exploitative movie on Marilyn Monroe's life. And when somebody exploits like the image of a real person for the sake of entertainment, I have a problem with it. Now, I don't have a problem with it to an extent that I don't want people to make movies like this. I'm perfectly fine with people making movies like this. I think there was like a recent movie with about like Sharon Tate, and then there was a Bruce Lee cameo in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm perfectly fine with those movies. I'm just saying that I'm not going to go out of my way to purchase a ticket for that movie, you know? So with Blonde, I was very torn because I saw the trailer to Blonde and it looked really good. And I think that's where one of the problem lies. When people saw the trailer to Blonde and how good and eerily similar Ana de Armas looked to Marilyn Monroe, I think that was one of the biggest selling points of the film. I think that's why so many people went to watch it, and there were a lot of people who actually appreciated the film too. And I think that's why this is so divisive. Some people enjoyed it, some people didn't. And when I looked at the list of why people didn't enjoy this film, it kind of became very apparent that I might not enjoy this film, but I can't really say for certain before watching this. So the things that this movie was criticized about was that people thought this was a biopic. And when I saw the trailer, I also thought this was a biopic. The truth is, this is based on a historical fiction novel by Joyce Carol Oates about like the imagined inner life of Marilyn Monroe. So right off the bat, that is just like the kids call it, like I call it, like everybody calls it, clickbait. The trailer was clickbait because the trailer made it seem like this was a biopic, but it's not. It's historical fiction that's very different. I'm perfectly fine with historical fiction as long as it's like, you know, it's the source material is entertaining. It's not like super exploitative or like silly or crazy or something like that. But even the silly ones are quite fun. Case in point, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter was a super fun film. I loved it. It was so entertaining. Then there was like, I don't know about this one, but it's really interesting that I might read the book first before I watched the TV show. It's called A Man in the High Castle by Philip K. Dick. I think Philip K. Dick also wrote the book that inspired Blade Runner. I think it was called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. I know about this because of my subscribers, by the way. So I'm perfectly fine with historical fiction as well. They're quite fun. So The Man in the High Castle is, I think, about like what if Hitler didn't lose World War II but instead won. So like America was under Hitler's regime and many other countries, European countries, was under Hitler's regime, and the modern world is shown under like Nazi control, you know? So that is an interesting perspective. So I really want to watch that. This one, I'm not looking forward to it, but if I do get the opportunity to watch it on like a streaming service, I will. Exploiting a real person just for like shock value, something, it devalues the film a little bit. There was a movie about the person, I think it was, I don't know much about the Charles Manson case, but there was an actress who was killed. So there was a movie about that, I think, that didn't do very well at the box office simply because people were like, this was very exploitative. Now, exploitative movies can be fun, but not to an extent that I've heard Blonde being shown. I've heard that most of the scenes were about the way Marilyn Monroe was exploited. She was a victim of many things, that is true. And there was like a CGI scene about her abortion. I understand like describing how a person could be victimized by an industry, but when it's mostly about that, when it's only about that, what I wonder is how the person being depicted that way might have felt if they were alive, you know? Like, if it's just an exploitative picture about only one aspect of their lives where they were a victim, I don't know if, like, that's a movie that really does justice to the image of this person. Now, I'm not saying that don't show these things, of course, but if it's hyper focused on that, is it like exploiting on this one very traumatic part of this like famous person, you know, because there are many exploitative movies that really focus on like very particular things, not about like real people. Like, let's say I Spit on Your Grave and things like that. Now, a movie like I Spit on Your Grave can say that it's a revenge movie where the girl takes revenge on the perpetrators, which is fine, but like 60-70% of that movie is about like the exploitative nature in which she was, you know, she was victimized. And I can't sit through something like that for too long. Like I said in like my Shawshank Redemption reaction and commentary, that there are certain scenes that I can't go and watch like on my own. If I stumble upon those scenes, then I can't escape that theater or that movie, you know. So in that instance I can't run away, but otherwise I don't go out of my way to watch things like this. Also, when it comes to historical fiction about real people, real celebrities, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood did that with Bruce Lee. They portrayed Bruce Lee as this like egotistical this like douche, and he was like a wuss who lost a fight against Brad Pitt's character because he just wanted to show off his skills to like an extra in a movie. I I don't know, you know, I'm completely fine with freedom of expression in art, but that doesn't mean I have to like give a standing ovation or clap my hands when that happens. You know what I'm saying? I'm fine with that kind of a scene being in a movie, but I'm not if it's only a movie about Bruce Lee being a douche, which I don't know if it's true or false, but if it's only about that, then are you not negating the great things that Bruce Lee has done, the way that Bruce Lee has changed the martial arts movies as a whole? You know, have we forgotten about those things as well? Can we please depict those as well? Is it too much to ask? You know what I'm saying? So it's not a whole movie. That's my problem with Blonde. So I think this whole discourse is about Blonde right now. This is like a Blonde movie review right now. So I'm gonna move on from it. I haven't watched this film, so I can't really criticize it too much. But what I've heard from other people that I trust about movies, it's a very like I think Mark Kermode said this. He said that Blonde is a horror movie disguised as a film about fame. So I guess if I went with that mindset, I'll be cool. Unlike other people who went into this movie thinking that this is a this is a biopic, I feel really bad for them. Then he also said that it's more Nightmare on Elm Street than My Night with Marilyn. So I guess if I go into it thinking that this is like a horror version of Marilyn Monroe, I think I'll be fine. So moving on, there is the other one is Disney's Pinocchio. Now, I stayed away from Pinocchio because I don't know about the Pinocchio story. So when I heard that this was like not a good movie about Pinocchio, I was like, I'm not gonna watch this. I've heard about the story a lot, about this like, you know, boy who just like this wooden boy who like wooden toy who turns into a boy, really, right? And he can't lie or his nose keeps growing. So I know the lore, I just don't know what happens next. So I really want to watch it, but properly, like the original movie or maybe the original cartoon or whatever this came from. What I saw from like Disney's Pinocchio's trailer is that this movie is too much about Tom Hanks and too much about the other people, and Pinocchio didn't feel like the star of the film. Now, I don't know if that is exactly how the movie is, but I'll have to watch. And the comments were turned off for this video. I don't know why, but I'm like, fine, you know, like Tom Hanks is the, you know, driving the star power of this film, which is fine, but it also seemed like a movie that had like a lot of budget tied to it. It looked like a very expensive movie. And I saw the director, it's Robert Zemeckis, you know. Robert Zemeckis made Back to the Future. He made Forrest Gump. So I'm like, this movie's gonna be great if it has him in it. But I guess this is not like his prime time because a lot of people trashed this movie. And this movie seemed like it's not like a fun time to like go and trash it or something. It seemed like, from what I've heard from other people, it seemed like a very boring movie that was like a nothing burger. So I don't know what happened there. Maybe the charm was lost. But it was a live action movie, they said. And I don't know if like live action works for something that's like, you know, a popular animation. But what happened next was, I was confused when I saw Robert Zemeckis' name on it. Because I was like, I heard from someone that this is a Guillermo del Toro film. And I thought, oh wow, a Guillermo del Toro movie that's bad? That never happens. So I looked into it and I realized that there are two Pinocchio movies that came out. One was made by Robert Zemeckis and the other was made by Guillermo del Toro. And then I saw the trailer to the Guillermo del Toro movie and holy shit, did it look magical. It looks so good. I was like, wow, this is a movie actually about Pinocchio. And this is not just an animation movie. It's a stop motion animation movie, which makes it even better. There was like a magic to it, you know? There was like the woodenness of Pinocchio really shined. By the way, there was like a really weird cat dog fight going on in the background somewhere in my neighborhood. So if you hear any kind of like cat screaming or dogs fighting, it's not in my house. It's somewhere in the neighborhood. I don't know where it's going on. I don't know what to do about it. It's driving me crazy. But coming back to the point, it really looked like it was a movie about Pinocchio. The trailer made it seem like Pinocchio was the star of this film, and the stop motion animation really brought out this like woodenness that is this boy made of wood, you know, whose nose just keeps growing into like tree branches. There was like something really great about Guillermo del Toro's the look. I always like how del Toro's movies look, you know. It looks like fucking Studio Ghibli's movies. The nightmarishly sympathetic characters just comes to life in his movies or something, you know. It's perfect. And I think obviously I'm gonna watch the Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio movie, simply because the first things, the trailer captures the magic that people talk about when they talk about Pinocchio. And the Disney Pinocchio movie seemed like a very high budget live action version of Pinocchio, but I've seen many other live action versions of things like The Lion King, for instance. And unfortunately for me, I actually haven't seen the animated Lion King, but I was watching like on some streaming service. I watched like the live action Lion King, and I just got so bored I fell asleep. It was like lame as fuck. And I think that's the problem. Like new audiences that are not familiar with older stories like Pinocchio or older stories like Lion King, they get sucked into or older stories like Aladdin. They could get sucked into like these kinds of live action movies, and they don't have the magic that I saw in the stop motion Pinocchio movie by Del Toro, you know? So anyways, I'm gonna move on with it. There is Good Mourning. Okay, so I saw the trailer to this shit, and the one thing I have to say is that the comment section was more entertaining than the movie trailer itself. Whoever made the movie trailer, I think you should not hire your friends to make trailers like these. You should hire someone who knows how to make a movie trailer. This looked like a YouTube skit comedy like trailer or something like that. And other than that, it stars MGK, it stars Pete Davidson, sorry. It stars Megan Fox, Dennis Rodman. I think it has I don't know. There was one more. Whitney Cummings. Machine Gun Kelly, of course. I don't know who else, but it seems like the who's who of like the most insufferable people in Hollywood in one movie. And the only person that I would go to, like, the only two people I'd go to watch this movie for is Megan Fox, because, well, Megan Fox is super entertaining. I mean, if anybody has seen Jennifer's Body, they know what I mean, you know? And the second person is Pete Davidson, because Pete Davidson has actually impressed me in The King of Staten Island and the other movie that I watched recently, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. That movie is also actually about a lot of insufferable people, but these insufferable people get what's coming to them. You know, it's like a movie about virtue signaling and narcissism, but they don't realize their own flaws, and it comes back to bite them in the ass. And it's a great movie. It's a self-aware movie. You know, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is a great horror comedy, whatever you want to call it. But this one, it lacks that. Machine Gun Kelly's role is just like someone who belongs in Hollywood and doesn't know what mourning means, so he has to look it up. And he's like, is my girlfriend breaking up with me or not? And I don't know what it is about. And like, what is this text about? And he asks all his like snobbish Hollywood friends, and they try to... I don't know what this movie is about. It looks like a lot of cameos from people like with Dennis Rodman or Whitney Cummings. And That's it. I don't know what else this movie is. This is like a movie when like a celebrity has a lot of money and they've never had their own movie and they want to star in their own movie, so they call up a bunch of their friends and they make a movie that has no plot or anything. This looks like that, and it's definitely not something that I would go and pay money for to watch. I don't care about this. The trailer looked like trash. Maybe the movie is good. I don't know. Maybe the trailer is doing it a bunch of disservice. But then again, this is also nominated for the Razzies, so maybe I might be right that this is not a movie that people should go watch. Anyways, then there is The King's Daughter. Oh my God, where do I begin? This one stars two people I know and I really love. It's Pierce Brosnan and William Hurt. Okay, so when I saw these two names, I'm like, okay, and this looks like this looks very royal. It had some castles, and I'm like, okay, maybe this is a movie that I might watch. It's like one of those Princess Diaries type of movie, like a King's Daughter, right? I saw the trailer for this thing, and immediately it made me seem like this trailer or this movie was made by people from like 2010, and the creators were like graphic design is my passion people from Facebook who design like shitty book covers for self-published like fantasy novels that never sell or anything. I don't know what the hell was going on. And then I did some research on it, and this movie is actually based on a book that's a hit. So that was very surprising because, okay, if the book is a hit, then definitely the story might be a hit, right? The problem, I believe, is like the look of the film. The look of the film looks like it's from 2000, early 2000s, which is fine, but the trailer also does like a severe disservice to this film. I don't know what's going on. The look of this film, it looks fake. It looks like it belongs in a theater. It looks like a theater play where all the outfits and the horse carriages and the palaces and everything is just so polished and new. It doesn't look like it belongs in its era. It looks like it's staged. That's the biggest problem. And Pierce Brosnan looks like he doesn't want to be there. I never saw William Hurt in the trailer, so I don't know what's going on there. I don't know. I don't have anything else to say about this film. This is a nothing film. This is a trailer when you watch, you don't remember it. I'm trying to look into anything about this film. I just don't get any hits. So I guess this is like a made for TV movie. Definitely looked like one. I don't know, but the good part about The King's Daughter is that the comment section was not as bad as Good Mourning was. The Good Mourning comment section was like a comedy sketch on its own, but The King's Daughter comment section was actually quite supportive of the movie. I think there were many like readers of the book that this movie is based on, so there were a lot of book fans that were talking about like the movie, and some people also enjoyed like the aesthetic of like early 2000s like movie about a girl in a fantasy kind of like kingdom or whatever. So it does have an audience, what I'm saying, which is weird, right? Like Good Morning with all its like new fucking actors don't have an audience, but this one does. So I might watch King's Daughter or something. I don't know, whatever. Maybe not. I don't know. But I do enjoy movies like these, though. I like Princess Diaries. I like that movie with, what was her name? Amanda Bynes, when she was like, she was, I think, the daughter of a king or something. I really like that movie too. I don't know. The last thing I want to talk about, the creme de la creme of this fucking Razzie nominations, is Morbius. This fucking movie. Now, this movie definitely belongs in like the so bad it's good category, but at the same time, it doesn't. It's one of those movies I realize that I can watch with a friend once and then laugh about it. Like, I can watch it once by my own. That's fine. But then I watch it with a friend to like, make some jokes about how bad it is. But that's about it. I can't replay it again with another friend and be like, hey, have you seen Morbius? It's one of the worst things I've ever seen. I can't do that again. It's definitely so bad. It's actually technically really bad that I can't revisit again. The only reason I revisited the movie is because of Jared Harris. And shouts out to Jared Harris, by the way. He liked a tweet about a tweet I made about Morbius, and I said Jared Harris should have been Morbius instead, with Jared Leto as the bad guy. And Jared Harris throws Jared Leto in a nuclear reactor. At the end of the movie. That would have made it so much better. And I stand by that statement. So that was really fun to see that little like. But other than that, this movie has no redeeming qualities. It's such a shame to see a vampire movie in a Marvel catalog or Sony catalog, technically. I don't know. Who cares? To see a vampire movie in this thing and to have it be so diluted, so muted, to have artificial blood grown in a lab. That's what Morbius drinks. To have a bad guy completely traipse around and end up in like a CGI fucking, I don't even know. They at the end of the movie, they both look like curtains that were flying about on like a windy day. Nothing made sense. They were all flying about and they looked very elongated. It's like Mr. Elastic fighting Injustice Mr. Elastic. It looked so bad. And Jared Harris, I don't know what the fuck he was doing in that movie. I guess he just wanted to collect the paycheck and just go home. His role was completely just unused. The love interest character was somewhat interesting, but that's about it, you know. The sad part is there is a good potential to make a good horror kind of like movie within Marvel. I think they tried to do that with a shorter movie recently called Werewolf by Night, and I've heard nothing but praises about this film. I watched about like 15 minutes when a lot of like monster hunters entered a room and they were about to like go on a quest, I guess, and go on a fight to hunt something. I guess to hunt a werewolf, I don't know, but it looked very promising. It was like a black and white feature, and I'm excited to watch that one. I am not excited to watch Morbius again. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen. And what made me mad was that there was another Marvel property that I watched. I'm not very familiar with like Marvel movies. I don't care about this franchise, but I do tolerate many movies because there are some good movies in this. Like Iron Man, for instance, is fantastic, right? Guardians of the Galaxy, Ant-Man. So there was another Marvel property that's about like the horror elements of things. I think it was called Constantine. And Constantine is a heavily flawed movie. I'm not a big fan of Constantine. But this made me want to rewatch Constantine because that was a very entertaining movie that knew what it was about. It knew that it wasn't like a groundbreaking fucking whatever the fuck movie. It's not something that was just going to be remembered by a lot of people, but definitely was there to entertain everyone. And it did entertain people. There were a lot of scenes that were terrifying. There was a scene where Lucifer gets into this is a little bit of a spoiler, but it's a 2005 movie, so all bets are off. But okay, spoiler, 3, 2, 1, close your ears. There is a scene where Lucifer digs into Constantine's like lungs, pulls out his cancer, and cures him. Okay, spoiler over. So that was terrifying to see. And there was another scene, which is not a big spoiler, but there was a demon that he puts into a mirror and throws the mirror out the window. The demon creature looked super terrifying. And there were many other scenes that were terrifying about this movie. But it was not like fucking, I don't know, Exorcist terrifying, but it's something that was like a little bold. It looked nice. It looked interesting. This movie looked, I won't say it looked bad, but it's not a memorable movie. Like this was like, but The Dark Knight, like Batman Begins, there was even a scene with bats where like Morbius embraces the bats, which is fine. Of course, we all borrow things from other, creations. Lord knows I do with my novels. But other than that, this shit was just, it pissed me off because they did the same shit with Venom, where they promised a lot of things. They promised a villain origin story, and then they shit the bed with Venom, made him like this like cartoonish character, where this character should have been a schizophrenic, insane mess. And Tom Hardy, God bless his soul, really tried to do that. He really tried to bring out this schizophrenic personality of having another parasite, like, you know, be in your body by like jumping into a fucking lobster tank and try to eat the whole lobster raw. He tried to do that on his own. I think it wasn't even scripted. God bless his heart, he tried to do that. It still didn't work because the movie was still a fucking PG-13 kiddie mess that I will not visit again, even though it was highly entertaining, thanks to Tom Hardy. This is a movie, there is no redeeming quality about this movie as well. Artificial blood? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, there wasn't even like a lot of blood scenes in a vampire movie. Is what made me mad. And again with this movie, they promised us a vampire origin story of like an anti-hero who I think is like, they did this shit in the ending, and I don't want to spoil it for you if you don't want to if you want to watch it, but fuck, like at this point I don't even know if you should, but whatever. Okay, I'm not gonna give too much, but they hinted that they want to hurt Spider-Man, you know, with another villain character that comes up, you know, just saying that we should kill Spider-Man or some shit like that. So you are talking about a villain character, you're talking about an anti-hero, but you made him so fucking sympathetic that he doesn't even want to hurt human beings as a vampire. If you want to create like a villain origin story, then why not go the Joker route, where you make him sympathetic, but you also make him a despicable human being that kills an innocent man live on TV because he hurt his feelings. Why don't you go that route? Get some balls. Actually make a villain out of this thing, please. Even Twilight tried to do that, right? Twilight was like, yeah, Edward is insane, and I think Edward should not be with you. And when Edward is with you, you end up dead with a vampire baby in your belly. Even they were like ballsy enough to have like really, really negative elements tied into a vampire storyline, because that's the fucking point, right? Okay, anyways, I'm getting very mad. So I guess Marvel tried to Dracula a movie, but instead they ended up with another fucking PG-13 movie that nobody will remember. It's one of the most like factory version of a movie that was churned down by the Marvel industrial complex that no one will remember. There's nothing original about it. I think this is what happens when there is too much profit mindset going on with creativity. There should be profit tied to creativity, but at the same time, you have to allow some amount of risk, and you have to allow some amount of R-rated versions, because children should not even watch vampire movies. Let's be honest. So to cater to an audience like that, while diluting a vampire movie to such a degree that it becomes a joke and ends up in the Razzie nominations, well, I think it should teach people a lesson. Anyways, I guess this is not the end of movies like this. There will be more. And I'm looking at other nominations. I don't think it's like too important. I guess there was Sylvester Stallone was nominated for Worst Actor for the movie Samaritan. I don't know why, but I've heard some good things about Samaritan. I've heard it's like a very good, interesting superhero origin story. I'm kind of having a little bit of a superhero fatigue, so I don't know if I will visit Samaritan, but I do want to hear, I do want to watch about like a senior citizen superhero, you know? It's unique. I do like when people put unique spins to like, you know, very familiar stories. Then there is a Worst Actress for Ryan Kiera Armstrong for Firestarter. I've heard that Firestarter is a novel by Stephen King. It's one of the most celebrated novels by Stephen King. And I've seen this trend recently where like Stephen King novels, like the adaptations have not done well, but there have been other Stephen King adaptations that have done terrifically well. You know, like It, for instance, one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. It Chapter 2, not so much, but It is still the new It I'm talking about. That one was terrifying. Then Bryce Dallas Howard for Jurassic Park Dominion. I'm not even surprised by that. The Jurassic World Dominion. I think that they wrote this wrong. I don't think it's Jurassic Park Dominion. Anyways, but the Jurassic World Dominion, Jurassic World movies, they are not fun. They are not. They are another one of these factory produced screenplays, you know, that you will not remember. They all look the same. They all have the same story. It just drives me crazy sometimes to look at these movies. The original Jurassic Park I watched recently for the Shreenation, and it was really fun. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the hell out of that movie. Jurassic World, not so much. I don't know. It's whatever. It's very forgettable. So I'm not very surprised of this nomination. And then there is a worst remake. Same movies, Blonde. The 365 Days sequels, I can see why they're here. Disney's Pinocchio, Firestarter, and Jurassic World Dominion. Yeah. Yep. I agree with all of these. So that's about it. That's the Razzie nominations. What do you think about these movies? Do you have any thoughts about them? Do you think there should have been a few extra movies in this list? Let me know in the comments below. And let's move on to the next segment, which is my weight loss and fitness journey. All right, now that we've covered both topics, including the Razzies, I want to talk about something personal once again. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, this would be divided into my writing progress, a trending topic, and a fitness progress. If you know me from my main channel, I may have mentioned this before, like I have certain fitness goals, like losing weight, and most importantly, just staying healthy. I've talked about this on my Instagram, actually, that my goal isn't to just like, it's not cosmetic in a sense, because I've always been a big girl. I've never had a problem with being a big girl. Maybe other people have a problem with me being a big girl, but not myself. So by that I mean many people deal with bullying and body dysmorphia. I dealt with a little bit of bullying, stuff like that. But I've always had a thick skin, and I've always had a good sense of humor about things. So if someone would make a snarky comment, I would make another snarky comment. And if that person is a good person, they'd laugh and, you know, we'd be friends. So that has been my experience with my weight issues and stuff. But at certain points, I realized that being overweight is not healthy, is not good for you. For me, it has always been a problem with just like never losing the weight. So by that I mean I don't become like a morbidly obese person. I don't eat like that to be a morbidly obese person. Maybe someday, if I have like no control over my food, maybe one day I turn into one of those people. But I'm someone who doesn't eat that much. By that I mean I'm not someone who eats a lot of carbs, not for any like reason, but I have a problem with my blood sugar, and I don't use like insulin and stuff. Like I'm not really like, I haven't reached that level yet. I'm not like a completely dependent on insulin or anything, but I don't like my fluctuating blood sugars, so I stay away from carbohydrates, most importantly sugar. And at the same time, whenever I eat like bread and anything that's made with like wheat or whole wheat or like rice and stuff, the first day I'm fine, but if I eat too much of something like that, like a pizza, let's say if I eat a whole pizza, the next day or the day after, my stomach is on fire. Like I'm dying of gas. I'm going to the bathroom 3-4 times a day. I don't know why that happens. I've never been diagnosed for anything, but I have like Googled this stuff, and it's related to like celiac disease and stuff like that. I don't know if I have that, but I just can't tolerate it that much. So my food mainly consists of like meat and vegetables and sometimes fruits. So I don't gain too much weight. All the weight I have is just been accumulation of whatever I've eaten so far in a sedentary lifestyle. So that is my problem, having a sedentary lifestyle. That's something I want to change, simply because it just makes me feel happy. Whenever I'm active, whenever I'm doing something, whether it's just like going to the gym is like the last thing, but just staying active, like going for walks, going shopping, doing things on my own, doing daily chores. I used to garden with my mom back in the day. Like I love doing that stuff. Sitting down kind of makes me cranky for some reason too much. But because I started this like whole YouTube channel, I started writing from 2021. It hasn't been that long ago. I've become like this like sitting down aspect of things has become like my go-to now, you know, like working from home, even though it's bliss, but at the same time it is not very good for fitness reasons. So I do have to add that extra effort of going to the gym or at least working out. My fitness goals in 2023 is just simple: to lose the excess weight I have and to just be active, like all the time, like at least most of the time. I at least want to go on a walk, you know, a 30-minute walk every day. I at least want to go to the gym. If at least not every day, at least 3-4 times a day. 3-4 times a week. I'm sorry, a day. Can you imagine that? 3-4 times a week. At least I want to stay active because the rest of the day I don't have opportunities to be active. So these are like basic goals that I have, but I'm kind of struggling with them from like January itself. I don't know why, but I think it has to do with the habit aspect of working out. Before the pandemic, I used to be very active. And I think if you go back and watch my older videos, if you watch videos from 2018 to like 2020, you'd see that my face, my body is much smaller than like right now. You'd see that my face is narrower, my shoulders are wider and narrower. Shoulders are wider, my face is narrower, my neck is smaller. So like I didn't gain too much weight back in the day because I was very active. I used to go to the gym. I used to do all my shopping. I used to work, like, you know, anything my mom wanted, I'd bring that to her. I used to stay on my feet a lot. But I think the fear of the pandemic has really settled in and hasn't let go yet, because I've bought a lot of gear recently to go back to the gym because I have vaccinated. I haven't been boosted yet, but I am vaccinated twice. So I think I'll just take the booster. Oh wait, I got the booster. I haven't gone back and checked if there was anything else. So even though I am secured in a way, I still have that fear in me because I bought a lot of gear recently. I bought shoes, I bought clothes, I bought a gym bag, I bought a fucking water bottle. I still haven't gone to the gym yet, which is not that far from my home. So I'm like, why is this happening to me? And I think it's just that paranoia hasn't left, because 2020, the pandemic was just like extreme and all the gyms were closed. I used to go to a gym close by, and that was closed for like fucking 8-9 months. And that paranoia has settled in, as well as the lethargy. You know, lethargy is a habit as well. Something I've realized: as much as exercise is a habit, lethargy is also a habit. You've done it so long that it's hard to let go. So from 2020 to now, it's been 2 years now. I haven't gone back to the gym, so it's like it's really hard to shake that off. You know, that paranoia and that like sedentary lifestyle that has settled in. The second thing is that I have been working out in little bits at home, which has kept me active, but I haven't lost any weight. That's the problem. I feel great whenever I come back from a walk, whenever I do any home workouts, whenever I am like lifting weights, I feel great. But it's still something that keeps me active, but hasn't necessarily contributed to any weight loss, which is a big goal of mine. So I have to go back to the gym. So I really appreciate whenever like someone who is really fit talks about these things, and they talk about the struggle of just going to the gym, of the struggle of just like putting on your shoes, wearing your gym clothes, whatever it is, and just stepping out the house. That struggle, they talk about that a lot. And I appreciate the fact that even if someone is like super jacked, even if someone looks like fucking, I don't know, like a pro athlete, you know, even they talk about the struggle of just showing up every day, which means that this struggle that I'm feeling right now, I'm gonna have to deal with it even when I'm like even when I've reached my goals, even when I have lost all the excess weight, even when I don't have to fear table sugar again in order to like to have like fluctuating blood sugar and stuff like that, even then I have to like struggle with this that I'm struggling right now. Even if there's like a pandemic or no pandemic, I still have to struggle with the fact that I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to wear my running shoes. I don't want to go for a walk. I really love that. I really love the fact that, you know, someone who is super athletic has to struggle with that. It makes me feel better about myself, to put it lightly, to put it easily. So, but the other thing I've discovered, today I exercise at home and I feel really great, but like I said, it's not enough. I have to really go to the gym, and most importantly, I have to lift weights than just like doing basic cardio. The other thing that I have to understand, that exercise, just like being lazy, is a habit issue. So it's not important enough that you exercise every day, but it is important that you exercise at the same time every day. You show up every day. And it's not even about the task of exercising itself, it's the habit. The habit is the one that has to be incorporated. That's something that I've realized after a ton of trial and error, because what happens is sometimes I delay exercising. I say, oh, I have a video to shoot today, I have some editing to do, I have some writing to do for my novel, maybe I will plot certain chapters and then I'll go back to exercising. So when I do that, sometimes I stay true to my word. I go back and I exercise, and I'm a good little girl. I've completed all my tasks and I feel really great about it. But 4 out of 7 days, I don't show up in the evening. Why? Because I shot a video for 3 hours. I reacted to the fucking Green Mile, which is 3 hours and 20 minutes long. I am tired, my eyes hurt, and now I have to edit the Green Mile, post it on Patreon, talk to my YouTube subscribers who have commented wonderful things, respond to them, respond to some emails of sponsors who may or may not be fake. Most of them are fake. So I have chores to do at home. I have to cook my dinner, and then I have to go to bed. So because of all this stuff, I delay and delay and delay, and then I don't work out. So the work from home thing is a blessing and a curse at the same time, because when you are working at a job, at an office, you don't have any other time than like a particular hour every day. Let's say the evening hours are free for you to show up at the gym, or you only get like a few hours in the morning before work so that you can go to the gym. So it's like a habit building process right there. It's inserted in your routine. Your office has made it mandatory for you to show up in the morning or at night at the gym. So for me, I am flexible. I have a flexible routine because of staying at home. So it's up to me now to implement that. I have to work out at a certain time every day. What I work out, how I work out, whether I work out or not, whether it's for 5 minutes or for 50 minutes, it doesn't matter. I have to show up at that time. Maybe it doesn't work for someone else like that. Maybe they're happy with a flexible routine and they do show up in the morning or in the evening or at night to work out, but that's not me. I am a habit ant. I am a habit bee, basically. I'm like a worker bee. I'm like a worker ant. And I'm a slave to habit, basically. Even though I have the freedom, I do like discipline. It's just me. So for me, the morning time is the best time. I don't have any tasks. My routine is completely a blank slate. I have no idea my schedule, is a completely blank slate. I don't know what to do that day. I have a vague idea of it. But if I can exercise and get that over with, I don't have to worry about that. And I feel really great, I feel really great in doing the rest of the tasks. My mind is quite clear when I'm sitting down to plot my novel. I feel elated when I sit down and watch a movie for you guys, or I talk about a movie with you guys, or I make a video essay, whatever it is. I'm in a much better mood. I'm in a much calmer mood. So I guess that's another goal for this year, which is to just show up at the same time every day to work out. And right now I'm kind of dealing with this hand issue. I don't know if it's carpal tunnel syndrome or what, but my wrists really hurt whenever I do push-ups or whenever I'm doing like a cobra stretcher. So basically whenever I am pushing my palm towards the ground, every time I'm like, pushing myself against the ground, my palm hurts. My left palm, my left wrist really hurts. So I don't know if that's like a carpal tunnel issue or what. So I have to show that because I don't want to like go to the gym and injure my wrists. So I don't know what that pain is. I have to talk to an orthopedic about that. And then after I get that wrist thing fixed, I'll go to the gym. But at least for now, I have to show up first thing in the morning, maybe right after like a cup of tea, to just work out. Whatever workout I do, go for a walk, go for a run, just do home workouts, lift some weights. I just have to show up. And I feel like only then can I show up at the gym. And I don't want to be too much of a perfectionist about the gym either. I don't want to be like, I'm going to be triple vaxxed and then triple boosted and then I'll show up at the gym. Even though I will take my vaccines, I just want to get there. I just want to be an imperfect person at the gym and not worry about it. I used to be like super confident at the gym too. Right now, I'm just like so scared. I'm just worrying about like random dumb stuff. Like, oh my God, I'm so much bigger now. What if people fucking laugh at me at the gym? Which is hilarious because when I first went to the gym, back in like 2015, I was 118 kilograms. That's close to 118 kilograms is like what I don't even have Google right now. I would say that's close to 300 pounds, basically. I don't know math, so forgive me. But I was very big. Right now, I'm not 118 kilograms, okay? But I used to be so confident people didn't give a shit at the gym. People don't give a shit at the gym. So those kinds of worries are creeping up in my mind. I don't know why. I think it's been a while. 2 years is a long time to stay away from, a fitness crowd. You kind of feel a little intimidated for some reason. So I kind of want to shake all that garbage off my brain and just show up, So that's one of my goals. And I guess that's it. I don't want to bore you any further. I want to know from you guys now, what are your fitness goals? Do you have any? Do you think, do you agree or disagree with the habit thing that I just discussed? I want to know your opinions or any kind of your experience with these kinds of things. I would love to know. I would love to know any tips that you might have. What do you think about what do you think about the Razzie nominations? Do you agree or disagree with them? Have you seen any of the movies that have been Razzie nominated? I would love to see what the Oscar nominations are too. I'm really looking forward to that. And I'd love to know your thoughts on what do you think about my writing progress? Do you agree or disagree? Anything you have in the comments, let me know. This is like an experiment episode. If you guys enjoyed it, I'll try and post more. And I would include the video footage in it as well. At least Spotify is allowing me to do that nowadays, which is fantastic. So that's it. I thank you for allowing me to, to do this. And thank you for listening. I hope I didn't waste your time and see you next week.